一刀流居合獅子孫孫
うっせえ行こう逃げたお前は俺の仲間だ
何も分かった。
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today I wanted to focus on probably arguably one of my favourite characters in the whole show, which is
God Usopp.
And what I wanted to focus on today was 3 really key moments in the series where I think the crew would have lost if they didn't have him in the crew. And honestly, Usopp in general, when you think of his best moments in the series, these 3 are probably among them. So I'm going to go through each one, talk about how they were so pivotal, and how in some of them he was probably the only character who could fill these roles, as in no one else in the crew probably could have done what he did. Which is what makes his character so interesting, because, you know, when we meet him, he's this, you know, he's funny, he's got, you know, character, got spirit, but he's quite weak, and he tends to be scared of most fights. And he creates a very funny personality to the story, especially when guys like Luffy and Zoro are trying to pick fights with warlords and, you know, super strong people around the world. And he's like, oh, no, please don't, no, come on, we're gonna die. But yeah, it's very interesting, these moments having Usopp actually having to save them, which is ironic and really cool, and I really like what Oda has done with his character. So, the first one I wanted to talk about was during the Water 7 / Enies Lobby arc. Arguably one of the best arcs in the whole series, and this is actually when Usopp goes to leave the crew, and we know later on that he, you know, rejoins at the end of the arc. So this moment is after Robin's finally said she wants to live, and all the Straw Hats are fighting the CP9 agents in the Tower of Law, and it's right when Director Spandam is taking Robin across the Bridge of Hesitation to go through the Gates of Justice. And at this point, we know that the Gates of Justice, once they're closed, there's a very small chance that they can be opened up again. It's essentially this big, you know, 3-way triangular current between Enies Lobby, Impel Down, and Marineford, which at the time was Navy headquarters. So unless they pulled off another miracle, there was a very, very small chance that they could get the gates to reopen if Robin had passed through it. And remember, at this time she still had her cuffs on as well. So she's walking across the bridge. All the Straw Hats are, you know, busy at this point. They've either just won their fights or they're still fighting. Luffy ends up fighting pretty much right until the end of the arc. But Usopp, you know, he leaves that fight with Zoro and Kaku. And Sanji actually says to Usopp, you know, what can you do right now that we can't do? And we later find out that that's Usopp, or, you know, his persona at the time, going up to the top of the Tower of Law and shooting this ridiculous shot across who knows how many kilometers and through winds to hit Spandam and save Robin. Probably in the last moment before she got taken away on a ship through the gates and closed, and then there probably would have been no chance of getting her back unless there was an even bigger miracle, but I strongly doubt it. You know, going Impel Down or Marineford, there's just a bunch of even stronger people at those locations. And there was a lot of touching moments, honestly, like when Robin was talking to Spandam, you know, she honestly believes that her crew's going to save her, which was really nice to see this side of Robin, which we hadn't seen the whole show, her finally sort of opening up and trusting them fully. And then when Usopp actually saves her, you know, she's got that real sad look on her face, you know, she's crying. It was really sweet to see that side of her. And it just makes you think, like, yeah, if she did, you know, go through the gates and sail away, what would have happened with the rest of the arc? Like, them saving Robin, winning all the fights, and getting away, even among the Buster Call, was already such a big miracle. I'm not sure how much they could have pushed it. I think Robin would have definitely gotten away. Now it's just a matter of, would the Straw Hats have actually survived even without her? You know, knowing Luffy, if they did survive, they'll probably still go after her later, but I'm not sure they would have even gotten away. Like, Luffy barely beat Rob Lucci as it is. Like, he went to such limits. And that final push at the end when, you know, the crew saying, you know, win Luffy, you know, Robin's okay, we've saved her, you've just got to win, then we can go. I think that motivated him a little bit to push just that extra bit further. And even when he did win, he couldn't move anymore. And then, you know, the Going Merry actually shows up, which is a very convenient miracle, which saves them from the Buster Call, and they get away. But yeah, I wonder if Luffy, if he didn't know that Robin was safe, and if he knew that she had gotten away, like they just missed her, she's gone to Impel Down or Marineford to get executed, I'm not sure he would have been able to push like he did against Rob Lucci, and he could have actually lost there. And if he lost, yeah, I'm not sure the rest of the crew survives. They would have gone to save him. I'm not sure they could beat Rob Lucci in that state. Plus the 5 Vice Admirals were there. It's not looking good. So if you think about it, if Usopp didn't hit that shot and give Frankie enough time to show up and, you know, take Robin's cuffs off and protect her a little bit, and then buy enough time for everyone else to win their fights and show up, they would have lost that whole arc. That probably would have been the end of Robin and the end of the Straw Hats. So yeah, one very pivotal moment where Usopp stood up, did what no one else could with those stupid long range shots. So now the second moment is probably, it's very hard. He has so many good moments throughout the series. This is up there as one of them. It could be my favourite Usopp moment. So this is during the Thriller Bark arc. And it's sort of near the second half of the arc, when the main fights are happening. Everyone's trying to get their shadows back and, you know, escape. And they run into Perona, which we know is the girl who can control the ghosts. And anyone the ghosts touch become extremely negative and pretty much lose the will to fight. And she was the reason that we got so many funny moments, which were excellently described in the anime, of, you know, Zoro dropping down, you know, and Sanji laughing at him. Just some very funny moments. And I do like her character. She's quite good, especially when we see her later on. But anyway, so the crew runs into her, and they all get hit by the ghosts, and they all go extremely negative. And at this point, we know that, you know, Frankie, Zoro, Sanji, Luffy, if they get hit by the ghosts, they can't do anything. They lose the will to fight, and she can just, you know, put cuffs on them, she can kill them. They can't do anything. I think the only way they could beat her is through speed. And at this point, I think only Luffy could beat her that way. Like, imagine he used
Kia, Secondo.
And just moved so fast that her ghosts couldn't touch him, and he just, you know, knocked her out that way. I think that's the only way Luffy could beat her, just by speed alone. But I don't think Zoro or Sanji could actually beat her through speed, which is odd, because I like to think of Zoro as almost or as equal to Luffy in terms of strength. But you see when the crew sees her, Zoro and Sanji, they can't dodge her shots. They get hit, which suggests that maybe they're not fast enough to dodge these ghosts. Maybe they're actually too fast for them. So maybe they don't have any chance at all. And there was a bit of symbolism, if you didn't notice it, when they got hit. Zoro was the only one who didn't turn around. You know, he didn't show his back, which is pretty cool, because we know from his early fights against Hawkeye and Mr. One, and throughout the series really, a slash on the back is a swordsman's shame. So I think this is his style, you know, never get hit in the back, which is makes you think of Whitebeard later on. It's pretty heroic. But yeah, so at this age, Zoro and Sanji can't do anything. Even if Sanji wanted to fight, he won't hit a girl, so they've got no chance. Like I said, Luffy could probably beat her, but in the situation at Thriller Bark, he definitely has his hands full with the Oars, who's got his Shadow, and then Moria, who gets, super powered later on. And we know Luffy ends up going really hard, really pushing himself. He uses Git.
Gear Secando. Gear Third.
At the same time. And then he, passes out, and then there's a really good scene between Zoro and Kuma. So, it's very unlikely that Luffy could, jump in, beat Verona, and deal with them as well. I honestly doubt it. So yeah, the crew gets hit. Frankie, Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, and you're thinking, wow, they're screwed, And then Usopp, stands up, he takes out a bunch of the toys who have shadows in them. And at the start, Perona can't even tell because Usopp's sort of blending in with the other crew members going, oh, it's all over. And then, this is one of his, such cool moments. He's saying, call me
Captain Usopp.
He's saying, you won't touch my crew. You won't lay a hand on them. And Perona's like, what? How? Did he dodge it? I must have hit him. And then, his classic line. It was so good. Such a good moment. And then she's got that Enel face when he found out he couldn't hurt Luffy with electricity. So good. And it makes you think, imagine if Usopp never apologised at Water 7. What if they left him there? They would have been screwed. They would have lost against Perona. It's so lucky that Usopp has got this negative personality. And, for all those times throughout the series when he's complaining, he's saying, oh, we're gonna die. Don't fight them, we're all weak. It's ironic how it actually came in handy. And that was the only way they could win this fight, because they had someone so negative in their crew, which I just love. And it's funny, this allowed for a lot of funny moments in the then fight with Usopp and Perona. They actually pity him at one stage. He's boasting about how he's pessimistic, and they're like, why are you bragging about such a bad trait? But in this fight, it means he's really strong. So it's very funny. And the fight itself isn't really a test of strength. It's more a test of tricks, a game of tricks and lies, which Usopp is great at. And that's why he ultimately wins. There's a cool moment where
Soge Kingu
pops up out of nowhere, the alter ego of himself, and his little strength power up that way. Takes out, Kumasi, quite strong toy bear. But then Perona, once she sort of hides her real body and floats around with her, ghost version of herself, she actually is quite strong. She has those little ghosts that can cause explosions, and she beats Usopp up quite a bit through that. And then it gets to the end of the fight. She's got that really big super ghost, and then Usopp sucks it in with an impact dial, which is super cool and creative. We've seen him use that a few times throughout the series, including in his fight against Luffy at Water 7. And then he turns around and uses the impact dial, which sucked in the hit, to beat up that other toy, which is just awesome in the anime.
Impactor.
And then, of course, I love Perona. She's like, what? Is he actually really strong? And of course, we know he's not. And then, the way he wins the fight, again, is through tricks. He finally finds a real body, and he shoots a bunch of toy cockroaches under that. And then he pulls out the fake balloon 10-ton hammer, which I love, by the way. He did this again during the Alabasta arc. I guess it was the debut of it. Oh, and the opponents are like, what? Where did he get this strength from? And she has the same reaction here. And he goes on to say, Captain Usopp, they call me the strongest man in the East Blue. Oh, his lies are so funny. And then he smacks it on her, and and she just loses that way, by being grossed out and scared, and yeah, it's awesome. Like, only Usopp could win this fight in the whole crew. I do wonder though, there's a possibility that maybe Robin could not be too affected by these, because she's generally quite negative. Like, you think when, they worry about another crew member, they're like, oh, where's Nami, and then she's like, oh, I hope she hasn't been, eaten by some deep sea fish and digested or something. She has a lot of those quite negative comments. But I'd like to think she's generally positive, especially after she opened up in the Water 7 arc. So yeah, I believe that only Usopp could win this fight, and it was such a cool moment in the series. And keep in mind throughout this whole video, these are three main, obvious moments where Usopp really saved the crew, but there are a lot of little moments here and there. But these are probably my three favourite, Without Usopp, I think they clearly would have lost. So the third one is past the time skip. So if you haven't watched that far into One Piece, probably turn it off now. But this is during the Dressrosa arc with Doflamingo. And this was the birth of
God Usopp.
Which is a name that comes in later in the show. I guess he gets promoted from Captain Usopp to God Usopp, which is hilarious. But it's when he takes out Sugar. And he actually takes out Sugar twice, which is very crucial to this arc, and it was very pivotal to the Straw Hats' success. And Sugar in general probably has one of the most overpowered fruits in the entire anime. I think when I do a Devil Fruit, tier list in terms of strength at one point, I think hers will be very high. The fact that she's a girl, she's not actually a kid, but she doesn't have the best combat abilities out of the Doflamingo family. So if that fruit was in the powers of someone else, they could be stupidly strong. Like, imagine if you gave it to Rob Lucci, who's super fast. That would be ridiculous. Like, one touch and that person turns into a toy, and everyone who's ever known them forgets they ever existed. Like, that's ridiculous. And I'm not sure you can beat someone like Rob Lucci without touching them or them touching you. So yeah, a very strong fruit. And so there is the argument that someone else in the crew probably could have knocked her out. Like, obviously Luffy and Zoro are strong, they probably could have beaten her without getting touched. But similar to the Thriller Bark moment earlier I talked about, they were very preoccupied in Dressrosa. There was a lot of stuff going on. Luffy was just trying to fight Doflamingo, Zoro was fighting Pika. So it's a bit unreasonable to think that they could get away from those fights and quickly knock her out. And not everyone knew that she existed actually as well. Like, later on when she goes to see Luffy and Law, they don't know who she is, they don't know what she does, so things would have had to line up a bit for that to work. But anyways, so what did happen was, they were underground, all the Tontatas were fighting her and Treble, and they were getting beat up. And at this point, Robin had actually turned into a toy. She turned Robin into a toy through Robin's devil fruit powers, which is very interesting. So Usopp had actually forgotten that she ever existed. He assumed he was there alone. And it turns into quite a heroic moment where Usopp shows up. Like, all the Tontatas are defeated, all the former pirates have been turned into toys, and they're like praying for Usopp to win, but they can't do anything because they're being controlled. And then of course Usopp shows up to save the day, but he actually crushes the Tontata's spirit a little bit by saying, I lied to you this whole time, I'm not related to Noland, my name's not Usolendo, my name's Usopp, I'm part of the Straw Hats. They get a bit sad and heartbroken from that. But then he has a cool line where he says, remember my name, I'm gonna die fighting for you, I'm gonna become your actual hero kind of thing, which was pretty cool. Now, we know that he quickly loses this fight, and the way he actually gets Sugar to pass out is quite convenient. Don't get me wrong, it's very funny, but it's probably unlikely. It's from a funny face, a very, very funny face, which is what makes the scene so funny. But I'm not sure how realistic that is. But nonetheless, still a very cool moment. So yeah, obviously Sugar gets knocked out, and then it's pretty epic afterwards. In all of Dressrosa, like, it turns into pure chaos. Like, it's literally 10 years worth of forgotten lives that are coming back, and all of them want to, take out Doflamingo. There's so much hatred. And that includes all the strong pirates that were fighting in the tournament, that now, owe their lives to Usopp, and they're calling him
God Usopp.
And it's so funny, like, the giant lifts him up, and then the ceiling breaks and the light shines through, and that's where the whole God Usopp comes from. And then he accidentally says the wrong thing because he's beaten up, and he's like, follow me and I'll guide you, which is just hilarious. And then what tops us off, just the humour of it all, is then, Doflamingo sets the whole bird cage, and then he sets a 500 million berry bounty on Usopp, which is so funny. So yeah, this whole God Usopp arc was just hilarious. Now, the bigger piece to this third moment is that Usopp actually knocks her out a second time. So it's not once but twice that he somewhat saves the crew from Sugar's powers. And I think the second time is more crucial. Like, the first time is fairly early on. You could argue that someone else might have come in and, taken out Sugar, maybe. But the second time was very, very crucial. So this is when Luffy and Law finally get to the palace, and they're about to fight Doflamingo. It's just before they get to him. And we know that one of the Tontaras who's been held captive, Princess Mancherry, now she revived Sugar with her Devil Fruit powers, so Sugar is back in action. And like I said before, a lot of people don't know that Sugar exists, which is surprising because Law has very good intel. He's very good at finding things out. So it's surprising that he didn't even know of Sugar's existence, which suggests that Doflamingo held this very well. And so Sugar pops up in the palace and just sort of casually walks over to Luffy and Law. Now, they don't really show the dialogue in the manga. It looks like she's sort of just approaching them as a, lost, sad kid, something of the sort, and perhaps Luffy felt empathetic for her, and he was going to say, I'll save you, or, go that way, my crew's there, or something like that. But she got really close to them. They must have just believed she was an honest little girl, I guess. And so she gets to the point where she's literally about to touch them, I guess grab them for help, something like that, and they're completely buying it, it looks like. And that's when Usopp comes in and does the most stupid long distance shot. Like, it's to the point where it's, kilometers and kilometers away. Like, it's nothing compared to the Enies Lobby shot to save Robin. This is much further, and it's uphill as well. Like, you can barely see the palace from where they are with the naked eye. And that's where he first unlocks Observation Haki, which is crazy. Like, given it's, a very first form of it, and he never received any training, so it's not like he's on the same level as Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy, but that's crazy. Like, he unlocked it. I guess it makes sense, he's the sniper of the crew, but yeah, outside of the big three, I guess, of the Straw Hats, the monster trio, it's surprising to think that Usopp would be the next one to unlock some form of Haki, which is awesome. It actually makes him quite strong in a sense. And so with the help of Kanjuro, recreating, his face that traumatized Sugar, he shoots that in a little box, I guess. And with the help of Princess Viola, gets a really clear understanding of how many, window panels there are, what height and where they're standing and all that, and just hits this ridiculous shot to re-traumatize Sugar. Then she gets knocked out again. So yeah, without Luffy and Law even knowing, he saved the day. Like, can you just imagine if Luffy and Law got turned into toys at that point, and they were forgotten by everyone. Like, Doflamingo, you think he would probably win, that arc, like, without Luffy and Law. That's crazy. And I just can't help think, what would happen to the crew in that case? Like, they've lost all their memories of Luffy. They don't even know why they're there. They forget about Law and their alliance. Like, would they default to think Zoro is their captain because he's the first mate? Probably not. Like, Sanji would never report to Zoro as the captain. That's just unrealistic. Would they forget they're in a crew altogether and think they're just in Dressrosa? Probably not. They'll still remember that they have friends, Robin would remember Chopper, Usopp would remember Zoro. They'll remember each other, but maybe they would just think they're friends and not necessarily in a crew under a captain. So when you think about it that way, would they lose the motivation to fight a little bit? I think Zoro would be fine. He's still got that, really big determination to become the world's greatest swordsman. So I think he would go hard no matter the situation. But yeah, there's so many questions. You don't know what would happen if they forgot about Luffy, which, is the heart of the Straw Hats. In terms of how the arc would play out in that scenario, I think Zoro, Sabo, and Fujitora together could probably beat Doflamingo. So honestly, I think in the end, they would escape. But if they've forgotten Luffy, like, what would happen afterwards? Would they even know to go after Sugar? Like, they've forgotten that she's taken him out. So how would they know to go get her to turn him back, That's the crazy thing about her power. And what if she got more of them? What if she then got Usopp again, who knew how to take her out? What if she got someone else in the crew, like Sanji? Well, actually at the time he was gone, but what if she got someone else, Frankie or even Zoro? Who knows? And yeah, I guess in this sense, I think with Sabo, Zoro, and Fujitora, they probably would have gotten out of the birdcage and sailed on from there, and they probably would have gone their own ways. But without Luffy, there is no Straw Hat crew. So this is one where they might not have necessarily been defeated, but I think the crew would have disbanded. And in that sense, this is the third way that Usopp saved the crew. So yeah, 3 awesome moments. The shot at Enies Lobby, his negativity versus Perona, and God Usopp versus Sugar in Dressrosa. So these are 3 great Usopp moments, and probably 3 of the moments among his many great moments of why I think he's one of the best characters in One Piece. So that's about it. Let me know if there are any, big ones below that I missed potentially later on. I know there's a lot of small ones, but always keen to hear your feedback and let me know if there's any other topics you want me to focus on next. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers!